My dad said, in life, if you're too worried about people loving you or hating you, you're going to fail. He says, try to keep most people in the middle. If people ask you to borrow money from you, don't lend, give.
Welcome back to episode number 15 of the Vibes podcast. I'm your host, Med, and that's
Ted.
And today we have a very, very special guest. And normally I don't suck up to people. I just introduce them and let them speak for themselves. But when I say, and this is from the bottom of my heart, when I say for the past maybe 2-3 years, in my entrepreneurial route, who has affected me like immensely, so much through his YouTube videos, through everything that he's taught. And it's not something where I go on his YouTube videos and he says, hey, go hustle, and I go hustle. He has action-packed, step-by-step things to actually do, in which I've taken notes. I've actually done it, you know? It's this man sitting next to me, and I still can't believe he's here. Patrick Bet-David.
Oh, man.
How are you, man?
I'm very good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. I'm still in shock because you're like way up there for me, and I'm just looking at you and like there's like it's crazy to me because you've affected us so much, and there's so much we want to cover. But he's actually originally from Iran, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so born and raised in Iran. I'm a 78 baby. Earlier I was asking how old you are. You said I'm 23. I'm like, this is way different generation, right? But same high school. You guys went to Hoover, I went to Glendale. Mm-hmm. Born and raised in Iran, lived there 10 years. When Khomeini died, June 3rd, 89, 6 weeks later escaped. Went to Germany, lived at a refugee camp for a couple of years. You know, a lot of times the Armenians, the Middle Eastern, that's the route. Mm-hmm. They go to Germany or Austria or Spain.
I went to Austria.
A lot of you went to Austria. Yeah, so I went to Germany route, lived there a couple of years, and then we came to the States, Glendale. Went to school at Glendale High School. Then I joined the Army, had a 1.8 GPA in high school. So that wasn't too impressive. At that time, I was completely lost.
How old were you when you arrived here?
12.
You were 12.
12 when I came to the States.
So 1990?
November 28, 1990.
Okay.
Wow.
And
When I came to the States.
and I don't know if I'm sure you went through the same thing as I did, but like were you in that phase of where like you didn't know English? Did you get bullied at all? People picked on you?
Yeah, so at that time there was a show called Gilligan's Island.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to always say Gilligan's Island, and kids would laugh at me saying the S is silent. I said, man, then why do you put it there? Take the damn S out, So then it was Wednesday, I would say Wednesday. Then it was government, I would say government. They said the N is silent. I said, this language, man, with all these silent stuff. But no, you'd be called what? Fresh off the boat, you're a phobe, you're this, you're that. And Armenians were famous for our legendary noses that we have.
Oh, yeah. The unibrows.
You hear those, the unibrows, you hear the ears, all of it. But there's a part of me that I think bullying is necessary to do something big in your life. I really believe that. I know it's the opposite right now. And I watch my kids. The other day I was at the mall. My boys are here outside with Mario, but I was at the mall and I saw this one bigger kid started bullying Tico. Mm-hmm. So he starts bullying Tico, and I'm like, Tico looks at me and he says, Daddy, what do I do? I said, what do you want to do? You're going to let him bully you? Because you know what rules we live by in our family. We lead, we respect, we improve, we love. We don't bully, and we don't get bullied. Is he bullying you? Yes. I said, you're going to let him bully you? No. He went back and they got into it. And I said, buddy, you got to stand up for yourself. And so what if that wasn't there? What if that doesn't happen to you and I? What if you don't learn somebody taking shots at you. You don't experience the ability of having a wit. Witty people are people that sometimes they had a lot of shots being taken at them. So you have to figure out a way to be quick and come back. And so, yeah, I think it was a positive thing. And I would tell you, if I didn't go through that, military would have probably been a lot harder because in the military, it is nonstop. I joined the military. Everybody would say, why are you in the Army? You're from Iran. What are you doing here? I said, quite frankly, I'm here to take all your secrets back to Iran so we can learn what you guys teach in your military. But I learned how to dance with them and have a good time with a kid from North Dakota that's never met an Iranian before. A guy from Alabama who has no idea what an Iranian looks like. And it helped out. It helped out a lot.
Why did you decide to go into the military?
Yeah.
So, when I was 14, a guy named Jesus Guerra was recruiting me at 14 years old. He'd come to Glendale High School and he'd go around and he would always go find the troubled kids, and he would always tell me, you should go in the Army, you should go in the Army, you should go in the Army. And so one day, I'm working at Burger King. I'm going to Glendale Community College, and I am like not paying any attention to Glendale Community College. Me and my friend Armo now runs Rafi's place. Him and I would ditch every class, and we would sit and play spades against everybody. So that was us. I mean, I had no direction in life. I'm the kid that you were talking about. You went to UCLA. So I'm the GCC guy, and I worked at Burger King at the time. I had a 1983 Toyota Corolla at the time. I had sold my long bed, the Chevy S10 long bed. And one day we're at my house partying with a lot of the Glendale guys. They're at the place, my sister's apartment. That night we stayed at the hot tub till 4 a.m. And then my sister almost got evicted. So I woke up in the morning, I'm just completely hammered. I get down to the car to go to Burger King to my job. And I go downstairs and the car was stolen.
Wow.
Literally, they stole the car.
Good luck.
So then I come upstairs. No idea what I'm going to do in my life. I call my dad. I said, I need a ride. He said, to where? I said, to the recruiting station. I literally went to the recruiting station. I signed up to the Army. I said, the only way I'll sign up is if I leave tomorrow. They said, it takes 3 months. I said, I'm not signing up. They called around. I left in 2 weeks to South Carolina. Didn't tell a single friend, single family, single nobody. Before I signed, once I signed, next day everybody found out. They put a going away party ticket, and I was at Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
How'd your dad feel about that?
Wow.
Fully supportive.
Really?
My mother, first time I told my mom, she was in Iran at that time because she went back to handle some business. I called her from the base,
Man.
and she made one promise. She said, just promise me you'll never serve the military. And I joined the Army. Because remember, we escaped Iran. In Iran, when you hit a certain age as a boy, you have to serve the military in Iran, right?
Can't go back,
you can't go back, right? Now we're planning on going back. We're going to go back in a few weeks. So we come out here, and I joined the enemy's military because to Iran, Marik bad America. You hear about it so much. Now I'm in the U.S. military. So I called my mom. I said, Mom, I got 30 seconds. I was in a line with 60 soldiers behind me. Everybody's got a minute to call their family, put the money, and she picks up. I said, Mom, yes, I'm in the Army. I just want you to know I'm in South Carolina, but I'm okay. And then she just starts crying. What are you talking about?
Damn.
The irony, huh?
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
That's awesome. And so you come back from the military, right? How long?
2.5 years.
Okay. And you're 21, 22?
So yeah, I come out. I'm about to turn 21. I get out June 22nd is when I get out. And I get out June 22nd. I'm 20, about to be 21. Completely lost. Have no idea what I'm going to do.
Are you broke?
Fully. That would be an understatement because in the military, I spent everything I had.
What do you spend it on?
Alcohol.
Party?
I mean, you party your tail off. Military, a lot of people think military is a lot of work, which it is. You're going to work 80 hours a week. But you're probably going to party another 40 hours a week. So it's very... every night we're doing something.
Yeah. Okay.
And then on the weekends you're out just, getting in trouble, having a good time. So I came with zero savings. I came back with a 1990 Mitsubishi Eclipse red twin turbo, a $5,500 loan with a 33% interest rate from a financing company called FMAG that was famous for ripping off military people. I have the contract till today.
Wow.
I have the contract till today. Yeah, go figure that one out.
But okay, so you're broke, but at least do you have that discipline?
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, when I came, this may sound unfair, but everybody seems inferior in a way. Let me explain why. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. Because all my friends were afraid of real hard work. Yeah. So to me, 80, 100-hour weekdays, were not intimidating. And so the only thing was about figuring out the game of money and business and sales and finding somewhere I can go in and then I can work hard. Because if it comes down to working hard, that's going to be a very tough race against me.
Yeah.
It's a very tough race. So my confidence came from having a father that worked very hard. My dad always worked. He worked 6 days a week. He'd leave 5 o'clock in the morning, come 9 o'clock at night.
What was his job?
He worked at Max Factor, making skin products. He was a chemist. Max Factor in Nivea in Iran. And, in Iran, the Sunday was Friday. Iran is Friday. And we would go to Parquet Shahanshah because this is prior to Khomeini, right? So this is prior to, we go to Parquet Shahanshah. And actually, during Khomeini, it was still called Park Shahanshah. They named it. They changed the name afterwards. And then we'd go to church. We'd go to my grandma's house. We'd come back. He'd take his 2-hour nap, and we'd have dinner, and that was it. That was the Friday.
Speaking of that, now you said that being in the army kind of gave you an edge, right?
Yeah.
Do you also think, because as an immigrant, I also think this way, as an immigrant, that also gives you the upper edge?
Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. You got to realize. So when you come from an environment, let's just say you come from a communistic environment, right? You have been taught to break the law. Here's why. An entrepreneur in Russia during the communistic nation is a criminal. Let me say that one more time. An entrepreneur during the communistic regime of Russia is a criminal. Why? Because you are not allowed to make money outside of the money that they give you. So in your mind, you have been conditioned that you're a criminal. Like you said right now, what your dad did in Iran, and you're telling me that story, and I said, yeah, that's pretty normal in the Middle Eastern family stories. You're thinking you're a criminal. You're not a criminal. You simply want to sell a product that's legal in another country, but in your mind, you're thinking you're a criminal. So for 20 years, you have told yourself and you've accepted the fact that I'm a criminal, right? So you come to America, there's two different types of people in our community. And the challenge is to be able to condition the mind, whether you're on the one side or the other side. Let me explain what I mean by this. Some come to America and they have an edge, but because the money that was made sometimes seemed like it wasn't legal, they feel they have to somehow break the law to make the money here in America, which you know this, I know this. In Glendale, whether it was insurance fraud with Medicare, Medicaid, or healthcare businesses and all this stuff. And hey, go buy a Mercedes and say you crashed it off a building, and then you go get $82,000, but the car is in a garage. You change the VIN number. All these things that you hear about. Hey, what happened to you? Somebody hit me. Put this neck brace on. Go see this chiropractor. I'm gonna get you $18,000. I mean, these are things we laugh about. Yeah. But how many times has that happened to you? It happens all the time, right? You hear these stories. Then there is the other side that comes to America, and they feel like they've had handcuffs and shackles their entire lives. And when you take handcuffs and shackles off somebody and you give them the ability to learn and improve, it becomes the story of a Count of Monte Cristo. Is that what the movie is? Is it the Count of Monte Cristo, where this guy goes away? You guys got to watch this movie, by the way.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, so this guy gets bullied by this guy. He gets away. He goes to prison. And in prison, he decides to develop himself the entire time. Like he's reading, working on his mind, shaping his body, shaping his mindset, shaping his endurance, stamina, everything. He's working on himself hardcore the entire time. Then he comes back. Everybody forgets about him. Underground, he becomes one of the richest guy during that time. And he faces the guy that threw him in prison. And the guy cannot believe what happened. This is the ability of an immigrant, because an immigrant comes up here and says, look, you have no idea what I've been going through for the last 22 years. Yeah. You give me the capitalistic system that's legal. Give me some books. Give me some people I can learn from. The world is mine. That's the mentality. Yeah. So you don't just get the positive story. Yeah. You do also get the negative story. It's important to isolate each of those individually and give each of them the proper credit that they deserve, because it's not all positive. There's some negative that comes with it as well.
Okay. Now, speaking of books, you're a big advocate of reading. When did you start reading and understand that actually makes an impact on your life?
Gosh, listen, I'll give you a funny story here. My teacher in Glendale High School, if you're listening and you're from Glendale and you went to Glendale High School, you need to go and ask if anybody there knew a teacher named Mrs. Collins. Okay, Miss Collins. My gosh, this woman gave me nightmares. We used to read two books. That was Then, This Is Now, and the other one was Of Mice of Men. I don't know if you guys read it as well. When you were in high school. Of Mice of Men was the Lenny, he would pet the rabbit and it would kill him because he was so strong. And so I took this class, and there was a girl sitting in front of me. Her name was Carmen. She was one of the cheerleaders. And I would try to hide in front of this girl so Miss Collins wouldn't see me. And she would say, Patrick, read the next paragraph. Oh my gosh. It was like the most embarrassing. And think about it this way. The entire day when I'd go to school, I had one dread. You know what it was? Sixth period, Miss Collins is going to ask me to read in front of my 30 peers, right? So I hated reading. I couldn't stand it. I was a bad speller, the whole nine. So I go in the Army. For me, it was a math class. When I was in the military, I'd get bored. I'd go buy a math analysis book and I'd do formulas, because math to me was very interesting, because you're figuring life out. You're figuring out a formula, and everything in life is math. If you look around everything in this room, this is purely a mathematical setup room, right? And so all of a sudden I get out of the Army. My sister recommends me the book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And my first boss from Bally's recommends me How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins. And then I read those two, and then somebody recommended me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Those were my first 3 books. And then I said, you have got to be kidding me. I felt like I found a secret.
And literally. How old were you?
I was 20 years old. 20 and 9 months. So I was about to be 21, 3 months away from being 21.
Okay.
So you would say, I mean, from the looks of it, sounds like in high school, all this, you were someone that hated, I mean, you dreaded the hard workmanship of what it may have been. I mean, whether it was reading, whether it was school, what have you, work. So going to the Army is what changed to who you are today? Would you say that that was a big stepping stone in your life, or what was the one thing?
Yeah, I would say that's what it was. 2, I would say my parents getting a divorce and me growing up in a family that was very poor and welfare. I'd go to welfare right next to Rafi's place. I don't know if you guys, that used to be the welfare office. It's a Hollywood sign on it right now. But right next to the Rafi's place was a welfare office. We'd go there, get the food stamps. I'd go to, to Albertsons and pick up women's products for my family. And it was just everybody would see you. It's embarrassing. It's demeaning. I couldn't stand it. I hated not having money. I hate the word, I don't know if you know the word mennat. You know what mennat means? It's like when somebody puts how do you explain what mennat is? It's like guilt a little.
Yeah,
like
they give you something and then they expect it back.
Yeah, it's a mennat. And I said, you know what? I just don't like, everybody would feel sorry for you Thanksgiving. Oh, okay, Patrick, let's get him something. Bet David family and mom and pop and they're not together. All this, I'm so sick and tired of
just
hearing
patronizing
any of this crap. And you know what I even hated? I couldn't stand the fact that we bought it. I couldn't stand the fact that family bought the fact that yes, somebody is superior to us because we went through the divorce. So that probably, to me, I would tell you, the fire in my belly was that. The other fire in my belly was when my dad had a heart attack at UCLA Medical Center. I saw this guy and I said, my dad's not going to die and he's going to see my kids.
How old were you?
22, probably 21, 22. And when I saw that happen to my dad, and a massive heartbreak with a girl I had at the time that we were going to get married, but financially I was in a terrible situation. So a combination of all those things together created an absolute nuclear bomb for business that was going to take. Yeah, I mean, I was so determined that my eyes, you wouldn't recognize me a day after at the moment I got clear. I was talking to a friend the other day late at night. Tom and I are in the office. Everyone's gone. It's about 10:45. We're finalizing this Monday because I was flying to LA. And we're sitting there and I said, Tom, I don't know if you really realize I have been going nonstop since 2000. I've been going nonstop since year 2000, 80 to 100 hours a week since 2000. I haven't stopped. I said, this explosion that happened in my family and what happened in my blood, and I got clear, I haven't stopped. Vacations to me are uncomfortable. If you know, when you go on vacation with me, Paul will tell you, Paul, what's the number with me? How many days can I stay sane? That's the number.
3.
After 3 days, I am not good to be around because we got to get something going. We got to work. We got to build.
You got to grow.
You got to grow. And so that those events are probably what got me going.
Wow.
I'd say that, yeah.
So from that, you went ahead and you started PHP, People Helping People.
No, initially no.
Before we actually get into that, I want to ask you something. So this will prove that I actually watch all your things. So in one of your videos, you said that you didn't have, that 1 year, you didn't have sex until you made $1 million, or you
17 months.
Promise yourself. Okay, yeah. Can you tell us more about
absolutely.
that?
And here's, oh my gosh, this is so freaking funny on the timing of the question. Yesterday, we drove by the street of the first time I had sex after 17 months, and I was telling my wife, I said, babe, probably not the person you want to tell the story to as a baby. You see that street right there? Right there in a Ford Focus was when this is the first time I'm actually saying this on any podcast. So here's what happened. So one day, I meet a guy, and he tells me the story about this other guy who went, he didn't have sex until he got married, until he made his first $1 million. And so for me, it was like, dude, he's out of his mind. His penis probably fell off or something happened to this guy, right? There's something that probably happened to this guy. I said, no, I'm telling you, this is what this guy did. And then you start saying, yeah, this guy probably never had sex before. And he probably wasn't a player. He probably didn't have the time. He says, no, you don't understand. This. And he shows me the picture of this guy. I said, this is a good looking guy, nice body. You're telling me this guy? He said, yeah, this guy. I said, dang, this guy could do it, man. I got to figure something out here. So the point wasn't about not having sex. The point is about whatever you're an addict to. Because say you say to a guy that hasn't had sex for 2 years,
I'll do it.
to him, he's going to be like, I'll do it, you know, and it's not going to do nothing to this guy. But you tell that guy who's played video games every year for 7 years and you tell him go 17 months, to him, that's the sex where somebody else, it's not necessarily the sex thing. It's whatever you are addicted to that you have to drop. And so, yeah, I made the decision, and it was a community of ours. It was 3 of ours, us guys, and we said, we're going to do it. And oh my gosh, man, we would sit there and I'd say, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good. I say, did you snap at anybody this week? Yeah, I snapped at a couple people this week. Because, so, you know, you gotta realize there's a biological side. You almost wanted to study biology, right? You said you're going to go be a doctor, the whole nine. Look, for men, you know, for people who are listening, this is about to get a little bit uncomfortable. There's 3 ways that it comes out, okay? We either have sex and, you know, somebody helping out. Number 2, it's self, you know, they call it masturbation. Or number 3, if it doesn't come out for a while, it will in your dreams. It's called wet dreams, right? So no matter what, the man upstairs created in a way that if he gets the blame for this, right? If he created this because he said this is such a great feeling that, you know, eventually this is what's going to happen. So for me, when I went through that, and then all of a sudden, you know, the whole thing, you know, business started happening. I said, you know what, 17 months, then the rest was history from there on.
And how old were you?
26, 27.
Okay, so 20, like let's say you come out of the army.
This is at the peak of partying, but this is at the peak. Okay. So you're talking about 26. I stopped at 25. You've not seen me at a nightclub since 25. The last nightclub you see me in California would have been Highlands. I don't even know if there's still Highlands here. This is when Highlands has just opened up. Back in the days, this would be how many years ago? 14 years ago when it first opened up off of Hollywood and Highland. It was massive. It was the spot. And that's the last time I went there. I said, I'm done. I'm not going to the club. So 26, 27 is when I'm going through this phase.
But I'm just thinking, so you come out of the army. Is this, and then afterwards it's Morgan Stanley?
Yes, so after the army is Bally's, and with Bally's for a year. After Bally's is Morgan Stanley.
And Morgan Stanley's like 24-ish?
Morgan Stanley is 21-ish, 21, 22, because I get out at 20, I'm at Bally's for 1 year, so I'm 21, and then I go to Morgan Stanley the day before 9/11, so I'm 22.
And that was like your first day you got fired, or 9/11 happened? So
9/11, no, I still have a job. I get hired 9/10. And 9/11 happens the following day. I stuck around, you know, got my 7. I was with them for about 9 months. And then after that, I left.
And where'd you go?
Transamerica.
Okay.
I went with Trans for about 7.5 years. And then is when we started PHP Agency, October of 2009. And then that led to what it is today.
Where did you make your first million?
Transamerica is absolutely the place. Yeah,
okay.
When I was over there, it was a great experience. A lot of people, I learned a lot of things from when I was working at that company. But it came to a time that, you know, some things just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I was not comfortable under certain ways they were treating. So here's what happened. I wrote a 16-page letter to the company. I was all in. I bled this company. And I wrote a 16-page letter to the company. And I sent it to the top, a lady named Susan. Couldn't stand this lady. She was terrible, the way she treated people. And my experience with her, she was so disrespectful that to me, I just said, listen, I didn't get involved in business for somebody to treat people like this. You'd call her, she'd hang up if she didn't want to answer to you from corporate, and nobody else would know anything about it because that woman had been there for a while. And so, you know, one day I write a 16-page letter, proposal on what I think the company needs to do to make things better. And, you know, I send it in, no response. 2 days, no response. Then I send it to a few other people, no response. The following week, I send that letter to the entire executive team of Aegon. Aegon's a $400 billion company. Within 30 minutes, I get a response. And then they set up a time in Irvine. 10 people flew in. We had a meeting together. I went through my proposal. And they decided to take one of them. They did one thing for 30 days. And then nothing happened after that. I said, you know what? If I can't be heard and you guys get on stage and you see 90% of the ideas from McDonald's come from bottom up, I can't be here. October of 09, September 23rd, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had $60-some thousand of pending commissions waiting for me somewhere there, give or take. And I told my wife, I'm resigning today. And she said, babe, we had just gotten married three months prior. I said, no, babe, I'm resigning today. I can't be in a situation like this. And that is the day we resigned. October 20th, we became an official company. October 29th, we got a 400-page lawsuit from Aegon.
This is PHP.
This is PHP.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So I've been sued one time in my life, and it was from Aegon.
Right in the beginning.
Right in the beginning. And they, by the way, they did the right thing. They had to sue me.
Why?
They had to sue me. The only thing they did wrong is they had to put me out of business, and they didn't put us out of business because they assumed I didn't have cash. That's the challenge that they had. And so when they said, let's settle, so they wanted to speed up the settling process because they're thinking I won't be able to pay it up. I said, yeah, let's settle. So we settled. And I keep in mind, no one in my family's got money. My dad's a 99-cent store cashier. My mother's back in Iran. We don't come from money, any of that stuff. I said, let's settle. And we settled. And they were surprised I settled. And the next thing, was off to the races. They would send letters to all the insurance companies. Don't do business with PHP. Pat's going to go out of business. He's going to do this. He's going to look, the world. And by the way, all of that stuff that they did, that's the dirty side of business. Okay. You can get, and you got to be ready for it. I'm not telling you this because I'm singling them out. This is not a them thing. You better believe this happens with Burger King going against McDonald's, Coffee Bean, Starbucks, Wendy's coming up, Jack in the Box coming up. This is the part of competition. It happens in sports. It happens in business. It happens in churches. It happens in all of them. It is a competitive environment. And if you can't handle that and you take it from the standpoint of, I can't believe they just did this to me. I can't believe this is what just happened to me. You will get your ass handed to you sooner than you know it. And you'll be working at a W-2 job very, very quickly because you take that part personally. It's part of the game that they're going to play. You just have to make sure you outmaneuver it and be smarter and you move on and you don't take it personally and do your part.
It's a game of chess.
Yeah.
And,
But this is a little bit more than game of chess because this is mental and emotional torture that you're going to get in the world of business. Yeah. If you ask why some people don't make it in business, think about it. So we can say some people don't make it in business and a lot of people will say, well, this person didn't work hard. I know a lot of hardworking people. Believe me, you have to work hard. But, okay, well, the reason why he didn't work is because he wasn't funded. Bullshit. There's a lot of people that don't get funded. What do you mean he didn't get funded? Well, because, he had bad credit or he had this. No. Let's say you have all of that stuff. If you cannot handle the mental and emotional torture of running a business, the business world isn't for you. That is the one part you have to go through. And that scares a lot of people off because you're going to face that. Remember earlier when I told you, I said when you're small, nobody's threatened by you and trust a lot more people. Yeah. When you're broke, who do you trust? Everybody. Yeah. Why? Because you have nothing. I mean, what's anybody going to take from you? But when you start making money, you start realizing that, hey, the 60, 70 people that you thought were your best friends, those came with benefits. Yeah. And then you really realize there's pretty much a handful of people that you can trust. It's not going to be that many people fully to be able to trust.
And how do you decide or how do you see who you can trust?
So it goes back to being bullied. Like I said, bullying will be the best thing. So people taking advantage of you will be a very good thing to happen to you. I'm telling you. I believe a man, if he hasn't had his ass kicked once before he's 25, he hasn't had a girl crush his heart once, and he hasn't lost everything once, to have a absolute embarrassing, humiliating moment, he's not ready for the bigger aspects of life. You read a story about Teddy Roosevelt. This is a guy that lost his first two wives because they died and his kid died. I mean, think about your kid dying. Yeah. There is nothing worse than your kid dying. You know that scene from John Q where he's sitting on bed and he says, my kid is supposed to bury me. I'm not supposed to bury my... This is like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now, right?
This is Denzel Washington?
Denzel Washington said that in the movie John Q. And so Teddy goes through that. Teddy's the two-term president, one of the greatest presidents America's ever had. How is that even freaking possible? So I think too often we are so much concerned about things being easy and light and everything being smooth that we forget the fact that you work out, you have a body, you got shoulders, you got arms, you got a nice looking body. This didn't happen because you went out there and took some Celtic or creatine and all of a sudden the muscles showed up. It's a lot of pain, lots of soreness, lots of nights of going to sleep. Your chest is sore, your arms are sore. Sometimes you can't even stretch your arms and shake somebody's hand. Same thing with business.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Now, one thing that's interesting to me. So, you've said that you've been an entrepreneur since 10 years old, okay? There's guys like Gary Vee that say you're either born an entrepreneur or you're not, and you can get entrepreneurial tendencies, right? What do you think, like, for people listening out there, if they haven't done anything entrepreneurial until now, do you think they still can, or it's like you either are or you're not?
Yeah, I think you got to give Gary the credit because right after he made that statement, a month later, he took it back and he adjusted it.
Right.
So he adjusted it because he realized he was a little bit off on the statement that he made. You're going to do that as well. I'm going to do that as well. But I will tell you one thing about what Gary had. Gary grew up with a father who was a businessman who he was able to watch. You know, his dad took the business from 0 to 3 million. Gary took the business from 3 to 60 million. But somebody took it from 0 to 30. That's hard stuff, man. When the father comes here, there's a documentary out there you're going to watch, whether you like this or not. There was a documentary about, Paul, what's the name of the documentary we watched last week in Lake Tahoe? Meet the Trumps. Okay. And this isn't about Donald Trump becoming the president. This is about his grandfather. Mm-hmm. Like the person you need to study is his grandfather. The grandfathers who started the whole thing, right? And he passed that to the kid. The grandfather used to tell his father, Donald Trump's father's Fred. Donald Trump's grandfather's name is Fred. Fred Trump, Fred. So all the Freds were supposed to be the dominant leaders. Donald Trump's oldest brother's name is what? Fred. He died from alcohol, you know, all this other stuff that he had. But go back to the first Fred, which is grandpa, right? Yeah. This guy would feed to his kids the following statement. We're a special family. We're not regular people. We're going to do something big in our lives. We're the Trumps. We're not regular. We sacrifice it. Imagine being fed that every day for 18 years, right? Something's going to happen to you where you start thinking in a completely different way. Gary had somebody that says his mother loved on him, father loved on him. They said how great they are. I don't know if Armenian kids can say that. You know, Armenian kids, you know, the statements we hear is what? What are some of the things we hear, right? It's like, the bad things. Zenet Katri, Eskatvor Kesem Kave, Amota, Chesamanchum, all this stuff that, you know, there's not too much of a encourage, a praise, a, you know, you're an amazing type of kid in our community.
And I love that you bring that up because I want to talk more about that in the Armenian culture.
Let's get into that. So let me answer this question for you with the entrepreneur side. I do think anybody can be. I think anybody can be. I actually don't think it's the how-to part. I actually believe it's more the mental and the emotional side of the game. That's the difficult part. So Gary's statement about anybody can be an entrepreneur. If you can handle it mentally and emotionally, it is going to be a very difficult game for you. But go ahead. You were talking about the Armenian side culturally.
To add to that, we were bullied, even if it's by, I mean, just our parents just being so strict on us and giving us this discipline. They were telling us to go do things that were just so, they were the top tier careers, which is doctor, go be a lawyer, go do this. Yeah. That alone is something that disciplined us Armenians, that gave us the ability to push for bigger and better things.
But it also, I feel like it also made our minds closed. And because it's like, Mom, I want to become a basketball player. No, go become a doctor or a lawyer. So you're thinking, I'm not doing any entrepreneurial route. I'm going straight into this schooling. And then after schooling, I'm going to have this and then this and this. Yeah. So your mind is closed.
So I want to get your opinion on that. Is that, see, even I myself have thought of a business idea that I want to do that's just out of the norm. It's not just your regular day-to-day business that you're used to seeing. Yeah. And when you pitch that to the people that you trust, the people that you love, you know, those are the people that you want their honest opinion. They say, forget about it. You know, go to school, go to work. Would you say that times are going to be changing, or should we, I mean, because we want to continue our traditional Armenian, when we have kids or family, when we have a wife, you know, our own kids, to teach them, I mean,
yeah, that's going to change though. But I'm going to tell you something here, a couple ways to look at it. So think about it this way. What's worse, saying to go become a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, or not saying anything at all? What's worse?
Yeah.
Not saying anything at all, right? So at least they are casting a vision and an expectation on you. Because a kid grows up with zero expectation. What's that kid going to do? Literally nothing. At least saying go become a doctor or lawyer or an engineer, at least you're going to not do well and maybe fall off and become a whatever, CPA. Right? You're such a disappointment. All you became is an accountant, right? And that's a disappointment in the Armenian community. So the good part is the cast and the vision part. The other part is we got to find out why they say what they say about doing that. These folks came from Iran. and they came from Russia. Some of them came from Lebanon, Armenian community. In those areas that they grew up in, respect was for people who were what? Doctors, lawyers, engineers. You had political clout because you needed it. You don't necessarily need a lot of political clout in America because there's a lot more freedom here. Yeah, if you go to a different level business-wise, you need political clout. But to make it in America, you don't need political clout. You need it in Iran. You need it in Russia. You need it in Lebanon, right? So to them, that's what they're raised with. Now, what are we going to tell our kids? You know, it's going to be a completely different thing they're going to be telling your kids. You're going to be telling your kids, hey, guys, listen, you got an idea. Let's go become an entrepreneur. Become and do this. For me, I identified with my kids in a completely different way. I look at my kids. My oldest kid's very creative. We get to the house that we rented in Brentwood. This is the first thing he says, Dad, come here, Dad. I want to show you this. Come here. No, come here. So I go upstairs and I say, Dad, look at this. Do you see this frame here? I said, yeah, Daddy, I see this frame. He said, Daddy, I want to draw a painting and I want to put it on this frame and I want to draw it for you. And I think it's going to be such a special painting. I mean, I'm not a painter.
Yeah.
So who is this kid? Like, where did you get this painting stuff from? I've never talked about painting. So that's an interest to him, right? The middle son is a complete different thing. The middle son's a charmer. I go to school and the teacher says, you know, I hate to negotiate with your son because I always lose. I said, why? Because he says, he smiles and he gives me that little twist with his head and his cheeks comes out and I have to give him what he wants. So honestly, I'm asking the other teacher to discipline him because I can no longer. So I said, okay, this kid's probably going to be something to do with sales. He's charming. He knows how to get people to like him. I don't know what this kid's going to do. I think for us, it's probably going to be looking at what, you know, our kids' talent's going to be to go to the different level. But we got also, I was having a conversation with my mother. My mother and I had a very big falling out, lots of fights because there was a lot of pressure like you're talking about here. And no matter how much money you make and what you do, I can be worth $100 million and another kid could be worth $200,000, but that kid's a doctor. You know, I'm not a doctor. That's a more superior person to her, right? Things have changed now because she starts realizing what the difference is between the two and how big it is. You know, when mom comes nowadays and she says, everywhere I go, everybody talks about you. Everywhere I go, I can't mention your name. They say, yeah, do you know this guy named Patrick Bay-David? You know he's Armenian? She says, what do you mean, Patrick? That's my son. What do you? So she's going through a whole different aspect for herself. So for you, it could be those talks you're having with your family. You don't need to have those talks 10 years from now because the world's going to do all the talking for you. You don't need it to say anything.
But those 10 years are tough, man.
But it's the best 10 years. And by the way, you will be grateful for the fact that they put that kind of pressure under you. You go to UCLA and you get a degree. You go to USC, UCLA, USC, the top two schools in LA to go to school to. I mean, there's not a school above this. USC is known as the best for theater, Spielberg, all these guys that go over there. They got a business school, probably one of the best business schools in America. And UCLA is UCLA. Everyone knows about UCLA. So they did something right for you guys to get to that point. And now you guys are running a business like you're running. I don't know if your audience knows your numbers, that what you're doing.
No,
okay,
no, not
so
really.
so to do the kind of numbers you guys are doing and what you're profiting and all that stuff, if you guys disclose it, you will. How many kids your age are making that kind of money per month and they're not doctors, lawyers, dentists? Not many. I think parents did something right.
Yeah.
And I think the next part is for you guys to go prove to them that dad, mom, we're taking it to a whole different level than you guys thought your boys were going to do. But wait till that happens. We're going to surprise you here soon.
Yeah.
That part is going to be very exciting.
Yeah.
So I think
go for it.
to just finalize all that is that it will speak for itself. And there's no need to sit there and try to explain yourself to someone that can't wrap their mind around
Guys, I sold life insurance. My dad would say, what are you talking about life insurance? I said, Dad, I sell life. So he said, explain to me life insurance. I said, what? We protect people. You know, when they die, you deal with people dying? What do you mean people die? I said, Dad, not dying. We don't kill people. We sell life insurance, right? And these guys wouldn't understand it until they finally started learning, and I had to be patient with it. And, you know, that validation process is going to feel very good.
Now, speaking of kids, I've always thought about this. Like, for example, me and you, Teddy, right? We didn't grow up with rich dads or rich parents, right? So we had to find our own way. We had to go through the struggle. Now, someone like you that's obviously wealthy, you're going to have kids that grow up that aren't going to have the same struggles as you have, obviously, right? How do you build that hustle in them? How do you like, I just imagine a kid, unless they're guided correctly, they're just going to have it all, right? They're going to have it all and they're not going to really want to work as hard.
Yep.
You have a
Especially-
dad that's extremely rich.
Especially with that charming smile.
Yeah, he's good, man. That kid is good.
What do you do there? How do you raise them correctly?
If you were to ask my wife right now how many toys I have bought for both of my two boys, okay, she would probably tell you less than 10 toys together. Together, right? Maybe 15 toys. Now remember, the oldest is 5.5 and the middle one is 4.5. So somebody could listen to this and say, what an absolute, add whatever adjectives you want to add to me. Okay. Look, the other day we're in Ball Harbor. The Ball Harbor is like the Beverly Hills of Miami. Okay, we're staying at property was what? Was it St. Regis? We're staying at this penthouse, $23 million place, and we're staying there for a few days. I'm doing some business stuff, but at the same time, this is my time to spend a day or two with the kids on the water. Okay. So we go to the restaurant right across the street. This is the shopping area you want to go to. It's unfreaking believable with Pagani's parked in the parking lot and Bugatti's parked in the parking lot. So it's not even Ferraris parked in the parking lot, right?
Snaps, yeah.
So we go there and Dylan sees a white Ferrari. And at that time, it was the red Ferrari that we would always drive together. He says, Daddy, look at that. I want that white Ferrari. I said, oh, really want it, Daddy? Yes, Daddy. I said, Daddy, you know what I got for you? He says, what? I said, Daddy, one day I'm going to show you how you can buy this Ferrari for yourself. No, Daddy, I want you to buy it. I said, no, Daddy, it's going to feel so much better when you buy it. Because when you buy it, no, and he went the entire time, I want you. I said, I'm not going to buy it. You're going to buy it for yourself. You have additional contacts. You have additional resources. You have additional relationships. You have so many different things to shape your kids' minds. But I'll give you an idea what else I'm gonna be doing with these kids. Say you have a 14-year-old kid. Let's just say you and I are friends, okay? And you got a 14-year-old son, and you know who I am. I'm at the level I am business-wise, maybe even further than that. You call me and say, hey, Pat. I said, yeah. He says, look, my son, I think he needs some direction. Do you mind if I send him to you to spend 3 days with you? Sure. So your son comes and spends 3 days with me, okay? Your son is friends with my son, hypothetically. He has to come to my workplace and I'm disciplining him for 3 days, okay? Then you call him and he runs a business and he say, hey, can you take my son? I need him to spend a few days with. He goes here. You do this with 5 of your friends. One of them is going to be able to influence them where something's going to click and you're not even doing it. If you don't have those 5 relationships, you don't have those resources to use for somebody else to inject a certain mindset or belief into your kids. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. The only thing I would say is, when it comes down to spending money with my kids, I don't mind spending money on experiences. I don't mind spending money unlimited. I told my wife, I said, listen, I don't care how much money we're spending on these kids learning things or experiences, but I am very, very, very limited to buying, toys and things like. If I buy toys, I buy Lego. Why? Because we build it together, right? So it's quality time, and I enjoy Lego. So we'll sit there and we build a 900-piece, whatever it is, and I'm sit there for 2 hours with these guys. We're having a blast. But to buy all this nonsense toys, like we don't have video games in our house, we don't that kind of stuff, I have no tolerance for it. Not for me.
Okay, that's perfect.
Pat, I want to talk about something that's kind of more personal to me. You met your wife prior to all of the success. That
Actually, no, I met her after I had made my first million is when I met my wife.
Okay.
When we got
Before
married.
PHP.
When we got married, yeah, before PHP. Okay. So when we started PHP, her and I got married 3 months prior to that.
Okay.
So keep that part in mind. Yeah.
Okay.
So she knew you had at least a little bit of money.
No, but we met. Let me tell you the other side of the story. We met April of 02, June of 02, which she was also getting into the financial industry. And my wife, 2.5 years later of selling insurance and mortgages, she was already making a couple $100,000 a year on her own money. So this is not somebody that didn't know how to sell.
No gold digger.
She knew how to sell. She knew how to work. She paid her own bills. I mean, she was.
This is kind of a more perfect scenario now for what I'm about to ask. So I have a girlfriend for about almost 3 years now. She's in USC Pharmacy School. Same situation. Nice. We'll be, creating that 100, 200, whatever it may be. You have this idea. You have this vision, this dream. It's something that's not the same stable kind of lifestyle that, more females or they comfort living that it was.
Is she Armenian?
She's Armenian.
And are you asking with the Armenian community culture? Because if you want to, I can go both sides. So if you want to go specific, ask that as well.
Both would be great.
Okay.
What in what way do you sell? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to sell yourself before you sell whatever it is that you want to sell to her. How do you get them to stand by your side through all of the struggles? Let's say the business doesn't work. I've had family members who have opened up businesses and they've gotten divorces because the business wasn't going through, because of the wife that just didn't want to live that roller coaster lifestyle.
What a question, man.
It's such a, and I think a lot of the Armenian families and the communities, from what I know of, from what I've experienced, have gone through that in front of my own eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, any advice?
So first of all, here's a few things I would tell you. Number one is watch whoever it is, watch your girl when she goes through struggles on what she does. Number one. I remember my wife and I were dating. She hit a bad spot because when mortgage crisis collapsed, she all of a sudden went from making 200 to she's barely making any money per month. Mm-hmm. And she was living at Oakwood at that time. And Oakwood is not cheap apartments at that time. It's some rent you got to pay. And we went out one night. This is pretty epic on what she says to me. We went out one night and we had already been together for 6, 7, 8 months. So it's pretty legit relationship at this point. And she says, I'm having a hard time really paying the rent this month. Okay. So I said, really? She said, yes. I said, so what are you going to do about it? And she says, I'm going to have to figure it out. I said, I believe you will figure it out. Mm. Okay. Now watch what happens. This girl goes, she's doing loans at that time. She's doing insurance at that time. She goes and gets a job working back at Oakwood Apartments that she used to work in Houston and in LA to find a way to pay her rent while we're together. And her boyfriend at that time is making plenty of money to be able to pay that rent for her. And I don't. Okay. And she had no idea at that time. That's the moment when she went through that I knew I was going to marry this girl financially. And obviously other things that we talked about as well. That's one part. Because if it's like, well, do you know such and such about his girlfriend? She never brought things like that. Because if you say things like that to me, I disappear.
Yeah.
I'm turned off. Now, remember, some guys like that. Yeah. My girl's going to have all the Gucci and the Fendi. So I'm going to tell you something. Your Armenian audience is not going to like what I'm about to say. I told my wife, I'm not buying you a Chanel purse. I'm not buying you a Chanel purse until our third baby. Okay. And we've been together for at least 5 years. And so she's like, no problem. I said, I'm a Coach, man. Coach is $300. I love Coach. That's phenomenal. It's good quality and it's $300, $350. I can get a lot of things for Coach. So she says, okay, no problem. So, I told her 10 years, right? So I said, after we're married 10 years, I'll get you what do you call it? I'll get you a Chanel bag and I'll get you a $30,000 ring. Okay? The ring we got married with was $3,500 ring. It wasn't like
Really?
No, I'm not playing. And she bought me a $300 ring. And I said, I just want this nice. $300, boom, sits there. It's good to go, right? Okay. So she has a third baby, Senna. And this one, she really went through a lot of stuff. I went to the Chanel place. I had the girls in Highland Park pick me the best one. Then I went and gave it to her. She couldn't believe it. She's like, we haven't been together for 10. I said, babe, but you gave me 3 healthy babies. That's more than anything else. And I think we're done making babies. And this is your purse. And she said, can I go change it? I hope you don't. I wanted this one. And I know the one I like. I said, go to where she went. And she picked another one that was like, $2,000 more. Came home. No problem. But it became a culture in our family that we all have to earn things, right? Before we got married, I read a book with her called 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged. I've probably given that book to a few thousand guys and girls, by the way. On our second date, I bought that book for her at Borders, when there used to be a Borders, and I gave it to her. And I said, you need to read it and answer these 101 questions. I've already answered it. While I'm with her, I'm talking to 3 other girls at that time. 3 other girls at the same time. And she goes through the questionnaire. A week later on a Saturday, we're at her place. For 6 hours, we went through every single question. It was the most uncomfortable 6 hours together. And it's brutal. Because one of the questions says, what baggage do you bring to the relationship? On the bottom in parentheses, says, if the person says none, run. Okay? Because everyone has something that
Does
they
she
bring.
get to look at the book?
Oh, yeah. She went and answered hers. And I told her, I said, which ones do you want to go through for me? She says, let's go one by one. And we went through one by one on every single, mine all already been answered. We went through all the questions together. And I did that with a couple other girls that I liked as well at the time. And I just knew I couldn't be with those girls because the answers didn't match. So I think a lot of times we marry for the wrong reasons. I think men nowadays marry for great sex. They marry for 36, 24, 36. They marry because mom likes them, but mom's not marrying her, or dad likes him, but dad's not marrying him. And sometimes you got to turn off the entire noise and have your minimum 3 non-negotiables. And what I mean by 3 non-negotiables is things that you are not willing to compromise to marry somebody for before.
Do you mind sharing yours?
Mine were kids at the time. Mine were spiritually. I want the person to be spiritually connected, because there's going to come a time when I don't have the answers. She doesn't have the answers. We're hoping that the kids are going to be able to have a solid foundation that they're building on. And then on the other side, it was something that I wanted the person to know how to cook Middle Eastern food. I want the house to smell I want the house to smell like food, because I think when the house smells like food, kids stay home.
Yeah.
Right.
When the house doesn't smell like food, they go out there. And I keep this in mind.
Wow.
You didn't have to be Middle Eastern for me to marry you. She's white. She's 81% British based on Ancestry.com. You learn this stuff. But she's not white. She's not Armenian. She's not Assyrian. She's not Persian. She's from Houston, Texas. I could care less what the nationality was, but those things matter to me. She learned how to make ghormeh sabzi.
Perfect.
Wow.
She knows how to make upgush. She knows how to make everything. She makes the best ghormeh sabzi in the world. She's all about the Middle Eastern community. She loves my dad. She's so nice to my wife. It's all good. And keep this in mind. We've been now married for a little over 8 years. And next week, it'll be 10 years we've been dating, because December 29th of 2007 was our first date. I just remember this. And Paul, you got to make a note of it. I just remember this right now. Yeah, December 29th, when we get back, make a note of it. But here's the thing you got to also realize. Everything you can do right in a book, and it can still not work out one day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the part that you got to take out of your mind is perfection doesn't exist. Okay? Perfection doesn't exist because she's going to say something, do something that's going to piss you off, vice versa. And so I just contradicted myself, because I want you to know that life is filled with contradictions. Because on one side, I'm saying, you got to go out there and do this and ta-ta-ta-ta. But at the same time, perfection doesn't exist. So you're like, shit, give me a freaking answer.
Yeah.
Which one's the real one? Mm-hmm. You just have to understand that life is about odds, period. You are playing an odds game. Mm-hmm. This relationship can work out today. You guys can have fire a year from now. But odds are you guys are going to be friends for the rest of your life. Odds. So somebody from an outside Vegas could be looking at the same. There's a 91% chance the two of you guys will be friends for the rest of your life. Now, you're not married. You're not married. Say you get married and he gets married. What if your wife hates him?
Yeah.
What if his wife hates you? What if every night he goes to sleep, one day you piss him off and he goes home, he talks to his wife and he says, you know what he did today? Let me tell you what he did. Pissed me off. And she says, yeah, well, you do all the work and he takes after money and he's lazy and you know how it is and his family this. And she keeps feeding him. You're not hearing these conversations, and you guys got to fight 6 years from now. Yeah. So you guys got to have all these conversations. When my wife and I got married, I went to my mom and I said the following. I said, listen, for 30 years, you've been number one. Effective tonight, you're number two. Mm. And you can't say that to an Armenian mom because there's a shotgun coming right behind her, right? How dare you say something like that to your mother? But I had to say that. I said, Mom, look what happened. Your mom was number one, and you guys got a divorce. His mom was number one, and you guys got a divorce. I have no desire for you guys to run our marriage. We're going to have to handle our problems, and we'll let you know when we need your help, but this is our business. And all of that in the Middle Eastern community, it is so confusing, so annoying, so frustrating, so, oh my God, shut Amerikatsi estu elle, who do you think you are? Mehat Amerikan kesi beram du moratsa or highest to SS. Okay, Mom, just relax. We are living in America. Why did you come to America? There's a reason why we came here. So you got to please be able to make the adjustments as well, but I don't know if I answered your question for you. I don't think it's a one-sided answer. There's a lot of aspects that goes to it.
No, you hit a lot of them.
Yeah.
How pissed was your mom that you married a non-Armenian?
Yeah.
So I will tell you, my mom wasn't as pissed as you think she would be because I started being like that with my family the moment they got a divorce. When they got a divorce, my mother's side would make fun of my dad, and they would say, "Oh, inka be David, inka Asori, inka Esa." My dad's side would say, Adam Nile, they would always take shots. And one day I sat him down, I was young, and I told him, I said, listen, I want you guys to know something. To me, there's 3 people that matter in my life at that time. It was my mom, my dad, my sister. I said, the rest of you guys are secondary. So you only exist through my mom, and you only exist through my dad. I said, if you want to see me, you make fun of my dad, you'll never see me again. If you want to see me make fun of my mom, you'll never see me again. That's the end of it. So what do you want to do? And I said that very early on, and they said, shit, this is not going to work with this kid. And I told my mom, please do not talk bad behind my dad about my dad in front of me. I don't like it. And I told the same thing to my dad.
Wow.
And so it was a very direct conversation I had early on because I plan on having a relationship with both of them. So again, setting the standard and expectation early is the key on having any successful relationship. You make money. People ask you to borrow money from you. Hey, لسه شاد لا پوغس آنو مدون yes اسمی ما $10,000 پید کنم. I need some $10,000. Can you help me out with this? I came out with a simple rule after what my dad taught me. My dad said, in life, if you're too worried about people loving you or hating you, you're going to fail. He says, try to keep most people in the middle. If people ask you to borrow money from you, don't lend, give. So you say you need $10,000 to borrow from me? No problem. I don't have $10,000 to lend you, but I'll give you $500. You don't have to give it back. No. I don't expect anything back. So if I see you at a gathering, I don't have any kind of a hard feelings towards you. So you don't either for me because you're like, he gave it. At least he gave money.
Yeah.
You know, he's cool. What's up, man? How you doing? Right? So you're not going through that awkward. So play the odds game in life, man. And the rest of it, don't stress too much about what's going to happen because you're playing the odds game.
Yeah.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. I actually don't like alcohol. I drank a lot when I was in the army. I was a Jose Cuervo guy for 3 years straight.
So how do you go from not liking it to?
One day I decided to cut alcohol, and I went 7 years without alcohol. I just told my dad, I said, Dad, I just don't like the smell. I don't like the smell. Yeah. And now I'll drink Stephen Affo from Allstate. You got some Armenian listeners, so they'll know who he is. So Stephen Affo, we'll go to a restaurant. They always make fun of me because if Steve picks my wine, I'll drink it. If Steve picks it, I'll drink it. I said, Steve, you pick the wine, I'll drink it. But I'm a half a glass of wine guy. You won't even see me, hey, can we? No, half a glass of wine, I'll have it because I'm enjoying my company with the peers. But for me to go home and have wine, no.
Not happening.
No.
Okay, now so for one thing that we should absolutely cover for the two people living under a rock, Patrick is the CEO, the owner of PHP, People Helping People Agency. It's an insurance company, and you started this in 2009.
October of 09. Yes.
Would you agree that's a terrible time?
Horrible time. Yeah.
Terrible time to start. So you decided Transamerica was not the move, and you went in business for yourself. You started with 60 agents, correct? Mm-hmm. How did you get them on board on a company that was non-existent or was just starting out? And how did you build success?
Yeah. So listen, man, you make a very good point there because the reality part of it is at that time who mattered the most was actually not me. Sometimes we give so much credit to the prophet of an idea or the visionary of the idea, and we forget about the first believers of that idea, right? So you got a guy named George Palaio or a guy named Jose Gaitan or Lane Cooper. These were the original believers of what we were planning on doing with the company, right? That grew to what it was. And I lost a lot of guys. I'll never forget the first meeting I had. Oh my gosh, this meeting, I wish we were vlogging back then, man. Can you imagine some of the meetings we would have? Think about some of these meetings we would have. So I had a meeting with my first 7 generals, and this is how the meeting went. I said, guys, here's what we're going to do. He cast the vision. This is the night we were at Lulu's restaurant in Northridge, right next to Home Depot. We come back to the office off of Roscoe and Balboa, right around that area, at the 8550 building, Balboa, which is the Harmon International building. And we go there. Babe, I'm in the middle of the podcast. I'll call you back right after this. You're calling, it's getting static. Okay, babe. All right, bye. Okay. So I go to Lulu's. We come back, and it's the 7 guys, the generals and their wives. I said, here's what we're doing. Everybody is ecstatic. I said, I got one last thing to tell you. They said, what? I said, one of you guys is going to turn on me in 90 days. And
out
they
of the
said,
7.
Out of the 7. Oh, I never. And the one guy I gave the most to, he turned on me in 90 days. It wasn't 90 days, it was 120 days. He turned on me. And pretty ugly on how this happened. And I said, oh my gosh. But I knew it. And there was a guy that said, that'll never happen. I will never do that. They turned. Nothing against them. It was a lot of pressure to do what we were doing. Probably not the smartest decision to start a company at that time. Honestly, if somebody would have told me how hard it would have been, I would have never done it in the first place because it's not the easiest thing to do. We one time got to $13,000 in our payroll account, and that week we barely made payroll. We have nothing left, And if it wasn't the check we got next week, we're out of business. So this whole thing about the beautiful story, there's also the other side of the business that's filled with many anxiety attacks, panic attacks, stresses, arguments, fights, bickering, contracting, games, manipulation that you're getting from competitors. There's a lot of ugly sides to it. But yeah, from there, 66 agents to now 5,100 agents we got in 49 states, including Puerto Rico. We just recently had Oscar De La Hoya, Gabriel Brenner, who's the majority owner of Houston Dynamo. He's the first Mexican-born professional sports owner in America. Very wealthy man. If you go search him, Gabriel Brenner. And Atalaya Group out of New York. It's a $5 billion fund. They invested $10 million into PHP. And, that relationship's been a phenomenal relationship, and the company's going to places. It'll be 11 quarters in a row that our top line revenue has beaten the prior quarter in a row. 11 quarters in a row where the top line revenue has beaten the prior quarter. It's not the easiest thing to do because you're always going to have some quarter that's going to be off because of summer or Christmas or whatever. But it's been a wild ride.
Wow, man.
And I know you have also your YouTube channel. And how has that affected? I mean, I saw the video, you shut it down.
Yeah.
And it was because of PHP's growth. How else would you say that this has affected your life? And I mean,
you Valuetainment, or you talking about PHP Agency?
PHP.
Yeah, PHP Agency. I'm a diehard financial industry advocate. I want everybody to get their licenses to find out more about insurance, annuities, investments, stocks, bonds. I don't care what it is. Go get a Series 7. We don't do Series 7. I have a 7. Go learn about stocks, options, Bitcoin, bonds. So when people talk all this stuff, if you're going to make money, you're going to have to also learn where to put your money, right? I recommend everybody to get some kind of a license. Go get an insurance license. Go get securities license. Go get these licenses to learn, right? I'm a big advocate of it. But PHP, dramatically, both of them helped each other out. Valuetainment, if you watch Valuetainment, you will, I think 99% of the time, you will never hear me mention PHP.
Yeah.
You won't hear me like, I'm not, hey, if you want to do this, give me a call. I'll sell you an insurance policy. Because then I'm prostituting my audiences, and I'm not in that game. I have two separate relationships, I don't have the relationship. You'll talk to some guys and they sound like they're doing an infomercial. If you call right now 800 number, I'll give you a way to do this. No, if somebody needs to get a hold of me, guess what? They're going to get a hold of me. You're not like, you send me a message on what? Did you send me a message on Instagram? Right? Yeah. That's how we got connected. And then it led to what it is I told her. I said, just keep sending me messages. One of the times I'm in Glendale, we'll hook up. But yeah, both of them have now become their own standalone business. Valuetainment's now, 200 million minutes. You go on YouTube, you type in entrepreneur, probably most of the videos that have come up, 20% of them will probably be Valuetainment. And it took us a while to get it to that point, but it's been a wild ride.
So at some point, you said like for the first couple of years, you guys were like at a very minimal amount of subscribers, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What was that maneuver, that pivot point where you just started growing like crazy? What did you do differently?
Yeah. So, for the first 3 years, we had 2,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Okay. The last 12 months, we've gotten 360,000 subscribers. And we've only been on for 5 years, right? So you asked the question, why? We got specific. I wasn't doing general. I got very specific. When I asked you a question, I said, what's your audience? And you said, my audience is, 80% Armenian, 18 to 25, et cetera, right? Believe it or not, that's a good thing because that's specific. You go from a very specific, then you go broad. Too often people want to go general. You don't start general.
Yeah.
You go very like Joe Rogan. I'm an MMA guy. I'm doing all these reality TV shows. And then, and then also, boom, then it's Joe Rogan, right? On so many different opportunities that come up. Pick something you know a lot about. That's part of your niche, part of the community you know a lot about. Focus on that. Deliver a ton of value. Be good to people. Be fair to people. Be entertaining. And then all of a sudden, as you're developing and growing, your audience is going to say, hey, there was this guy, you should get on, you should hear what he said, hey, you should get on. And then they're going to like your interview style while you're getting better, and then it takes off for you. But don't try to be everything to everybody. Yeah. Pick a word and a community and stick to that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And by the way, consistency, I did a video, it's called 24 Keys to Making Your Content Go Viral. Because when Life of an Entrepreneur got 31 million views on Facebook, everyone's like, how do you make stuff go viral? I said, listen, I've only done it once, but here's what I can tell you what we did. And I went through the points. And these points, some of them were hey, put a schedule on when you're going to do a podcast or video and do it. If you're going to say once every Tuesday, do it every Tuesday, like the 8 o'clock news. You can't change it. So if you're not consistent, then your audience doesn't take you seriously for your consistency. Then you lose the people that are taking their time very consistently, seriously. So you got to make sure your content's also coming out on a regular basis. If it's once a month, tell me once a month. If it's once a week, stick to it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. And one thing that's very interesting to me. So at this point in your life, it's not the same thing you're doing in 2009, 2010, 2011. You've probably outsourced a lot of the tasks that need to happen. What is Patrick's day to day? And can you also answer what time you go to sleep and wake up?
So what's my day to day? So I'm at the office every single day.
Okay.
You are not going to see a day. Paul, when's the last time you saw me not at the office because I just decided not to come to the office? Never. Yeah. It just doesn't happen, right? If it happens, it's because I am in the emergency room, which, I was taken to the emergency room 3 weeks ago.
For what reason?
You're still at the office.
I was still at the office all day that day before I went to the emergency. I was at the emergency room till 1:30 in the morning. I had a IV, I had, pneumonia, and pneumonia was going on for a month that I got from Dominican Republic at a wedding I went to Candy Thomas and Ellie, but, I still went. Every day I'm at work. You're going to see me at the office every morning. I probably sleep at 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm a late nighter. My wife will go to sleep at 10:30. I'm up till 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then I'll wake up my 6 o'clock, 6:30.
Do you think 5 hours is enough sleep?
I make it up on Sunday. So my Sunday will be a 7-hour sleep day. I think if you condition your body in a way where you make it up on a day and that becomes your gas station, can you drive a car 10,000 miles on 1 gallon, on 1 tank? No. You need to go to the gas station once a week, right? The same way I treat my body. My body can handle it. Yesterday, I'm talking to a guy and I said, look, we feel so bad about how much work oh my gosh, I'm working so hard. Listen, people worked hard in biblical times. When people build a pyramid, that is really work. These guys were working. They were working day and night, nonstop, carrying stuff. Work nowadays is grab a mic, grab a phone, grab a smartphone, get on a computer, and go sell a bunch of stuff and you make money. It is pathetic what we consider work nowadays. Yeah. It's so easy. So sometimes we need to not make it such a big deal as if like, oh my gosh, I am such a hardworking person because I sat behind a computer and I was here for 16 hours. Please give me some recognition because I'm a hard worker.
That's what drains you. I feel like mentally that will drain you.
But you know what? You got to find your body as well to figure out a way to add this, squirts to it, the additional energy squirts that you get. Take a 30-minute walk. I used to love middle of the day. For me, it was a foot massage or a massage. It was a local massage place I would go to every single week. I had a middle of the day movie that I would go watch. I'd go watch a movie at 10 o'clock in the morning with 85-year-olds because that's when senior citizens watch their movies. So these were my escapes. And you got to know your escapes that you do because you'll know when you're like, my head is a little bit weirder than usual. Let me go get a 1-hour massage. Hey, are you guys available in the next 2 hours? Yes, I'll be there at 3 o'clock. I'll be back. You go get the massage, come back, boom, came over. Mm-hmm. You forgot about whatever you had.
Are those your things right now too? Your getaways, massage, walking?
No, walking I like because I think, okay, and I can relax and enjoy myself. Humor. What I like to do is I watch a funny thing for like 2 minutes.
Like a YouTube video?
Yeah, I watch a funny video and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was just hilarious. And I forgot about what I was stressing out about. It's a different routine today than before. That was my routine from 22 to 31 is what the routine was. Yeah. It changes.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm just wondering also like, you don't print stuff anymore. You don't fax stuff anymore, right? Patrick Bet-David, what does he do? Are you just calling like big guys and trying to get investors? Are you trying to get like, what's Pat doing now?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there's a video I did. It's called How to Strategize as an Entrepreneur, right? How to Strategize as an Entrepreneur, where I talk about, a lot of people are so focused on working on areas that grow their business linearly, in a linear way. I'm not interested in linear growth. I'm only interested in exponential growth, right? And it was, Next Innovative Campaign, leadership development. On the bottom as a linear was BizOp and BizDev and operations. So many times you spend so much time on the linear and you're like, how come my business is not exploding yet? I am in the leadership developing game. I was at the office on Saturday all day recruiting for 2 different senior executive positions for our company. One was a COO, the other one's a CRO. and I talked to a guy that was absolutely ridiculous of a chief revenue officer, and we had a hour and 39-minute conversation together, and that was my day with him. So right now it's collaboration, relationship, recruiting talent, developing leaders, going and shaking hands with clients, with people who run offices. It's a lot of leadership development and biz dev that I'm currently doing today.
Wow. Okay.
Just to wrap things up now,
Yeah.
I know it's been you're a busy guy. Just if you can give just some 5 quick kind of ideas to people that want to get started on their own business. Someone that whether it's waking up early, eating healthy, going to the gym, whatever it may be, just some 5 quick, simple
So
things.
I would tell you, number one is question everything your parents, your family, the clergy taught you. Literally, I know your parents are going to be upset with me saying this, but question everything that you were taught. Everything. You know, you know, all this kind of, and Armenians are so famous for, you know, what do you call the superstitious and all this. But question everything. You know, my mother would say, rich people are greedy. And I grew up not liking rich people. I literally couldn't stand rich people. I can't even describe to you how much I couldn't like rich people. Until finally, one day I went and addressed my mother. I said, Mom, why do you say such things about rich people? I mean, there's a lot of good. She says, no, you're right. We just had somebody in the family that made a lot of money and we never saw him ever again. So I felt like he thought he was better than us. I said, but that doesn't mean you tell your kids rich people are bad people, right? So question every single thing. Make a list of things your parents have told you that you believe. And then go do research if they're right or not. So that's number one, because if the belief system here doesn't get reconditioned, you're screwed for the rest of your life because those things stay there. Number two, figure out a way to be aligned, because alignment in life for me equals happiness. And here's what I mean by alignment. You're going to have a set of belief system in life that you come up with, right? Whatever your belief system is going to be. Come up with a belief system, set of values and principles that you live by. If these values and principles and your beliefs are parallel to the way you live your life, you're a happy person. It's when you have certain values and principles that you have that you're not following in your own life that you don't like yourself. And if you don't like yourself, you're not going to do good in life. So you have to first make a list of your values and principles that you write down on a sheet of paper. Then ask you, this is a private exercise. This is not a public exercise. This is you versus you. And say, am I doing this? No wonder you don't like yourself. No wonder internally you have so much bitterness towards yourself. There's a reason for that. Anytime I have been bitter or have not liked myself is because my behavior is not aligned with my values and principles that I have. I'd say that'd be the second thing. Third, for the young people, man, take your time when it comes down to getting married, man. Do not hurry that thing up, because some communities like, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? Allow people to let you marry whoever you want to marry if they're going to finance you for the rest of your life. If somebody says, I will give you $50 million, I want to make a decision who you get married to, say, I'll consider it. If you want to give me 50, no problem. Who do you think I should marry? This person. I'll marry her for a year. I'll get a divorce. I'll give her the 50%. I'll keep the 25 million. I'm good to go, right? So I'm good to go. But if you're not going to do that for me, guess what? Leave me alone. Yeah. Okay? Mom, you were 20 years old in Iran. Have you ever been 20 years old in America? No. Then you don't know what it is to be 20 years old in America. You know, I'd say that other part with marriage, take your time. Fourth one is kind of something we summed up about earlier. It's don't be afraid of having direct conversations with people that have influence in your lives. Actually sit down and have real conversations with your parents. Manage your expectation with them early on what things you want to do. So when it happens, they're not surprised. And aside from that, last but not least, I would tell you is get obsessed with learning. And I'm not talking like school and learning. Get obsessed with learning. Pick a word and go, immerse yourself in studying that word and that subject and that skill and whatever it is. Get like, people ask me a question, they say, what sales book should I read? You know what my answer is? All of them. But no, give me one. I could give you 5, but I want you to read all of them. Why? Because are you trying to just find a secret out of one book? Or are you trying to become prolific in sales? Go on Amazon, type in the word sales, negotiation, selling. Buy every single one of the books on there. If it's 20 of them, buy them. If it's 30 of them, buy every single. If it's communication, if it's real estate, if it's finances, if it's relationship, if it's human nature, buy every single book on that topic. And then all of a sudden you'll come back. For instance, 3 years ago, I was curious about Stoicism. So what did I do? I bought every single book on Stoicism. And I went through, I'm like, okay, cool. So pretty interesting philosophy and how Stoicism came about. Before Stoicism, there used to be a philosophy called cynicism. And these people, you know, the whole thing, you hear cynics. Cynicism used to be a philosophy like Stoicism. And these people would get together and they would say, nothing good's going to happen. They would sit there bitching with each other. Eventually, a guy said, I'm not a cynicism. I believe in Stoicism. And a guy named Seneca started Stoicism, which the guy that ended up becoming the biggest leader of Stoicism was Marcus Aurelius, who was the greatest emperor they had in Rome for 7 years. And that's because he studied Stoicism. So how do I know this stuff? It's because I just got curious. Why do they keep talking about Stoicism? Pick a word that you want to get better at right now, immerse yourself in it, and see what happens to you 90 days later. People won't even recognize you. So those would be the 5 things right off the top of my head I would.
I'm curious.
Your audience.
How many books do you read a year, would you say? Or a month or something?
So I am probably a 4 to 12 book a month guy.
How? How do you find time?
I mean, I travel a lot. When you're on a plane, you got reading time. Every day I go to the bathroom. I got 20 minutes twice a day to sit in the bathroom and read, and no one bothers me.
You're not on Instagram. You're not.
No, and I go there and I read. I'm reading. I'm working. Don't get me wrong. I'm also seeing some social media stuff, but I'm going on there mainly to read. I'm going on there mainly to develop my mind. Right now, we have 2 very interesting people we're meeting with tomorrow in Newport Beach. That we're sitting down with them. So I went and studied everything about the Italian mobster family. What is that all about? And I studied the entire 4 families. How did they do? Who was solid? Who made the most money? What is the system? What is the comp plan? How do they pay each other? You know, I'm just curious to know how that works. So I read a bunch of different books about stuff that, you know, to somebody else may not make any sense, but it does because of what I'm getting ready to do tomorrow. So I read intentionally now. I don't read like, this guy said this is a great book. No, my priority is what I'm studying, then the books people recommend to me.
Yeah. The problem I have with reading is, for example, the 300-page book, right? Unless I write stuff down, which I'm probably not going to even review later, because if you're reading so many books, how do you keep that information?
So how-to books, I read. Storybooks, biographies, I listen.
Okay. Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I'm reading a book that's going to give me 7 steps to do something, I'm reading it. If I'm reading the story of Steve Jobs, I'm listening to it.
Yeah. And do you take notes and stuff?
Yes. Okay. So I literally on my phone, I will have a notes. I'll show you right now. It'll be a notes section that says notes from books. Okay. And I'll go to my notes from books. And let's see where that's at here. Maybe it's on the other part. It says notes from books. And on this notes from books, I'll write down the notes I'm getting from a book.
Wow.
And I'll just keep writing these notes from books. And so I know what I'm doing afterwards, you know, what I got from an audiobook.
Okay, wow. One last question before I let you go. Sorry. Does Pat ever get depressed?
All the time. But it's the key to the lifespan is shorter. I did a video, Paul, 3 years ago on anxiety and depression. 3 years ago, I did a video on it, on anxiety attacks and depression. So I went.
You read a book too.
On Valuetainment YouTube channel.
On Valuetainment. Matter of fact, if you type in anxiety, it's going to be one of the first videos that should come up. The internet here is a little different. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did a video on anxiety and panic attacks because I was going through it myself. I was going through heavy duty anxiety and panic attacks for a year and a half. It was terrible. My palms were getting sweaty. July 15, 2015. So this is 2.5 years ago. If you just type in how to deal with anxiety attacks and depression on Valuetainment, okay? And I open up. I actually tell you what happened with me. When I went to the hospital and I'm sitting at the doctor's like, you're not having a heart attack. You're having an anxiety attack and a panic attack. Tell me about your schedule. Tell me about what's going on. And I was carrying too many loads at that time. We had a kid. Another one came out of nowhere. We were not ready. Company was in a tough place. We had lost the contract. We were about to go out of business. Everybody's counting on me to make decisions. And all of a sudden, this load hit me hard, rock solid. And then again, I decided to study what anxiety attacks were stemmed from. What is the difference between a panic attack and a heart attack? And what is depression? Why do we get depressed? And it was the simplest. I read so many books until 168-page ebook written by a girl named Jaden something that everybody's got to read. I recommend the book on the video. And I read this book and she said, when you're depressed, you're living in the past. When you're having anxiety and panic attacks, you're living in the future. So depression is past. So anytime you're getting depressed, you got to ask yourself, what am I thinking about from the past? You stop. Stop thinking about that. We have no control over it. Let it go. Anxiety on my heart, my tongue. What do you have? What are you worried about? You have no control over that. Stop thinking about it. You're okay. Relax. It's fine. You can't control what's going to happen next week. Just do what you're doing today.
Yeah.
What can we do to be prepared for it? The moment you knew that pendulum and you knew how to pause and get to that point and learn how to control it, the lifespan of both anxiety and depression becomes smaller. So, everybody gets depressed at some point. Even the person that acts like they're perfect and they walk on water. The only difference is it only lasts for a minute. Maybe yours lasts for 2 weeks. Maybe some people's last for a year. They get a divorce. My husband left me. They've been depressed for 10 years, right? It's the lifespan that's the problem. It's not the actual event. The lifespan is what kills you. You can stay anxious for 2 minutes versus staying anxious for 2 weeks. The lifespan is what hurts you.
You got to control that.
So you just got to make sure as you're going through, do a quick self-talk. Why am I feeling this way? What happened here? Why are you upset? What are you upset about? What did that person say? Can you control it? No, let it go. Move on. Make a phone call. Call somebody and tell them good things about him. Boom. Great. I'm done. I forgot about it. What was I upset about? I forgot. Good.
Yeah.
It's literally that cycle that you go through.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. Do you have any other question? You're good?
I think, yeah.
Guys, we just had a great episode with Patrick Bet-David. First of all, please subscribe to our channel, Vibes Podcast. But also, if you enjoyed what Patrick had to say and you're one of the two people, like I said, living under a rock and don't know what Valuetainment is, he literally goes through all these things and just step by step. If you're an entrepreneur, all that, lifestyle, everything. So make sure to check out Valuetainment channel on YouTube. We'll link it definitely. But Pat, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Anytime.
Thank you so much,
Anytime.
man.
Really
Also,
enjoy the questions.
Your website would have a list of your top 100 books? Or
Yes. Top 100 books
So
and
if
top
you guys
100
are also-
movies.
PatrickBetDavid.com.
You got it.
Right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Check this
Well,
out.
from the Vibes guys and Patrick,
Patrick.
thank you so much.
We're out.
Peace.
Peace.
Take care.
Thank you so much.